Hello and blessings, beautiful souls. How are you today? My name is Avalon and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how to use a charcoal disc. This is a question that has been asked a number of times, and so I've decided to make a quick video about how to use a charcoal disc, why we use a charcoal disc, and some of the things that you need to know when you are in fact using a charcoal disc. So stick with me because I'm going to go deep into it. A charcoal disc is a combustible disc made of charcoal and a lighting agent that is used to burn loose mix incense. Now, loose mix incense is something that is made of ground botanical, typically made using a mortar and pestle, and to that you can add dried botanicals, a few drops of oil, and mix it all together and burn atop of a charcoal disc. Witches love to use charcoal discs to burn their loose mix incense because loose mix incense is something that you can create with an intention in alignment with, say, a spell or ritual that you are crafting, and therefore the botanicals and ingredients that you choose in your loose mix incense can directly align to the purpose and the theme of your ritual and or spell. A charcoal disc is made of ground or powdered charcoal, and to it a lighting agent is added. Now, typically speaking, this lighting agent could be anything from sulfur to potassium nitrate. There are a couple of other ingredients that can be added to cause that combustible continuous burn within the charcoal disc, but most commonly what you are going to find are things like saltpeter and sulfur and things of that nature. And it's for this reason that it's important to understand that charcoal discs can actually be quite toxic to the environment depending on the lighting agent that has been used. And while the level of toxicity is quite low when compared to, other toxins, it's still important to understand that when you're using charcoal discs, it's important to open all the doors, all the windows. And if you are living in an area, or you are conducting your ritual, say, in an area that does not have a lot of ventilation, then perhaps a charcoal disc is not the best thing to use. It's also pretty important to add that if you are a person that suffers from any kind of respiratory illness or asthma or something to that effect, that charcoal discs put out a lot of smoke. And I do mean this. They bellow out smoke when they're first lit, and they smoke thereafter when adding that loose mix incense to the charcoal disc. And so it puts out a lot of smoke. And so, as I was saying before, as far as ventilation goes, that is very important. But also, if you are a person that suffers from any kind of respiratory illness, then it's best not to use charcoal discs. There are other alternatives to, burning loose mix incense, and I will go into that potentially another day. When you are burning a charcoal disc, it's important to acknowledge the vessel that you are choosing to burn your charcoal disc in. And so a non-flammable, almost heat-proof solution is what you'll need, because when you are burning a charcoal disc, it can create a lot of heat. And so if you put it on bare metal or bare ceramic or bare brass, for instance, it is going to heat up that material so much that it will be impossible for you to touch. For this reason, it is best to use things like a cauldron, a cast iron cauldron, which is typically what you will see witches using. But you can also use beautiful brass incense burners, and they're designed for that type of work. And ceramics can also be a suitable solution. So say, for instance, if you have a beautiful teacup, for instance, and it's got a chip on it and you don't really want to use it for drinking anymore, then perhaps you can use that to burn your charcoal in. So when you've chosen the type of vessel that you are going to burn your charcoal disc in, it's important to understand that when you are burning a charcoal disc, it requires aeration. And so typically speaking, you can add a little bit of sand or a little bit of salt to your vessel to ensure that oxygen gets through to that charcoal disc and it burns evenly. This will also deter the vessel that you have placed your charcoal disc in from overheating, so it can help to further heat proof the vessel that you have chosen. I'm going to take you inside now and show you exactly how I light a charcoal disc, what happens when you light a charcoal disc, and what it looks like when you start to add loose mix incense to your charcoal disc. So let's take a look. So the brand of charcoal disc that I like to use is this one here, which is Swift Light. It's a UK based company. And the only reason why I like to use this one is because it's the one brand of charcoal disc that has never let me down. I've lived in the tropics, and when you live in humid climates, that can really affect the way that a charcoal disc burns. So if you do live in a humid environment, make sure that when you open up your packet of charcoal discs, that you then rewrap it in something like a Ziploc bag or even some aluminium foil. Make sure that it's properly wrapped up so that the humidity doesn't take effect. So this is what a charcoal disc looks like. As you can see, it's kind of rounded and it has this little divot in the middle here. And you usually get a decent lot in a pack. So it is messy working with them. And you do have to be careful when you're lighting them, because I have seen all sorts of things happen when lighting these types of things, right up until one of them actually like kind of has a little mini explosion. They can just go poof and then break apart. You will see sparking because of that lighting agent that we spoke of earlier. It's very cool when they light. I am going to be using my cauldron to light my charcoal disc. It has remnants of burnt spells and petition papers in there at the moment, so I'm going to go over the top of that to kind of heat proof and to create that aeration that we spoke of as well. Now I personally work with sand. I just collected this sand from the beach, and that's what I'm going to be using to create that safe burning environment. So I just put a little bit of sand, dry sand. It's important that it be dry because once again you don't want humidity involved here. When you're lighting your disc, you don't want to be touching it. I mean, there's always an instance where it's okay to do so, but it's best not to. So I'm just going to take these random these random little thingies here, and I'm just going to hit it to the flame. It can take a while to have it burn. It starts to crackle and spark, and it starts to smoke. And then you will slowly see it getting hotter and hotter and hotter. It's starting to glow red, and we want it to be nice and glowy. And you'll start to see that it will take shape soon. Okay, so while that is doing its thing, I'm going to show you what a loose mix incense is. This right here is a loose mix incense. It's a mixture of woods, barks, gums, resins, all sorts of botanicals in a dried format. You can typically add a couple of drops of oil. That's not going to create too much of a fuss. It will add more smoke, but it won't cause that same kind of humidity that a liquid can. So that is what it looks like there. There is many different types of loose mix incenses, and they're typically, as I've stated before, created with an intention in mind. Here is another look at a different kind of loose mix incense. It's much more finely powdered and very kind of, it's very gritty. It's got a good amount of oil in there, which means it's going to be quite fragrant when you burn it. And as you can see in the background, it's really starting to take effect. So that heat is starting to be pulled right into the center of the charcoal disc, so that when you put the loose mix incense, it is going to smoke up beautifully. Tongs like these are a great little tool to have when burning charcoal discs, because it keeps your hand obviously far removed from the disc itself. And because that charcoal disc can actually spark, you know, you avoid burning yourself. Not that I've ever burnt myself with a charcoal disc before, but it does happen, it has happened, and it will probably continue to happen until people start to really take safety matters or measures into consideration. So I wanted to show you what happens when we burn a resin such as frankincense, which is a beautiful, commonly used resin amongst witches. This is what it looks like right here. I'm going to put a little bit of it on top of our charcoal. The smell of the resin hits you before before the actual smoke takes effect. And it puts out the most fragrant perfume smell, like the pure resin burning there. This is a wonderful, wonderful resin for clearing a space, amongst many other things. See what happens? Now, I personally like to use a cauldron if I don't have a hanging censer, which is a brass censer that has brass chain and you can swing it quite easily, very church style if you will. But a cauldron obviously has multiple uses, and I like to use mine for burning petitions and for lighting incense, ritual incense. But when I am looking to do kind of a house cleansing, then having this censer to be able to walk around the perimeter of my home and swing it so that the smoke can really go where it needs to go is just pretty damn delightful to do. There are many brands of charcoal discs to consider. Now there are eco-friendly, non-toxic charcoal disc options to consider as well, made from bamboo charcoal with potassium nitrate as the lighting agent. So there are options for you if you are looking for a non-toxic experience as far as your charcoal disc goes. But keep in mind that the most commonly used lighting agents are sulfur and saltpeter. These do create a little toxicity in the environment. But overall, it is not so bad as long as you're not sitting there in an enclosed space and inhaling that smoke. It's not so bad. And when you're outside doing your rituals and your incense burnings and things of that nature outside, then it's perfectly fine. Okay, beautiful soul, so if you have liked this charcoal disc, this how to use a charcoal disc video, then please do give this a thumbs up. Like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and comment below, because if you have liked this video, then I will consider making other witchcraft basics videos just for you. Much love and many blessings. Bye!